Let's make a couple of leather bracelets with the big hole ring sets that we just made. What we need is some 5mm leather cord, the bead sets that we just made on the 3/16" mandrels, a couple of clasps, a measuring tape, a cutting tool for the leather, and a ruler. With the measuring tape, measure your wrist. Mine happens to be 7.5 inches around. I want the bracelet to not be tight, so I'm going to make it 8 inches overall. Matching up the bead and the leather color to see what I like best with each set. I'm going to take the first bit of leather and measure it, but first we have to figure out how big our clasp is and how much extra length that's going to add to the bracelet. There's about 1/4 inch on the end of each of those clasp pieces, and it's an inch overall, so that's going to add an extra 1/2 inch to the length of our bracelet, which means my 8-inch bracelet needs to have 7.5 inches of leather. Taking a Sharpie and marking it 7.5 inches. Then I'm going to take the leather cutting tool that I have. It's pretty sharp. And I'm going to slice the leather. It cuts it nice and straight. First bracelet we're going to make is the decorated set of beads. So let's get some of our stuff out of the way. Let's cut off this raffia that's holding our little set together. And starting with the largest bead in this set, I'm going to try to fit it on this cord, and it is a snug fit, so we got to kind of twist it on and kind of help it along and keep going, and then I can pull it to the middle of the bracelet. Make sure you find the center of the leather. This is going to be the middle of the bracelet, and then we're just going to put the rest of the beads on. I could have taken my Dremel and reamed out the beads a little bit more so the hole was a little bit bigger and it wasn't as tight, but this keeps them in place, so this is not a bad thing. As long as they can get on, we're good. This bead is a little loose, so it's going to need a little help, but the other beads are a snug fit as well. Come on, you can do it. The beads are set just a little bit away from each other so that they can curve with the bracelet. I have these little sterling spacers that I'm going to put on the end for decoration. Not a tight fit, so that's going to have to be glued into place, as well as this one. Looks good. Next, we're going to take our 2-part epoxy, some aluminum foil, and a toothpick. We're going to squeeze out an equal amount of both parts. I'm going to need a little bit extra today. Mix it together for about 10 seconds. Just speeding through this part because we did this before. I'm going to pull the last bead and the spacer out of the way, and I'm going to put the epoxy on the back side of the leather. And then I'm going to move the bead back into place, spin it around a bit to spread the epoxy out, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the spacer bead. Just a little bit. You don't need much. The other side was a little bit snug, so it's not going to need to be glued into place. Next, I'm going to take the clasp and spread some epoxy inside the hole that the leather goes into. Not too much, you don't want it to overfill, but a good amount, so it's covering all of the edges. Place the leather in the hole of the clasp and smear it around a little bit, get it nice and covered. The other side, make sure you're putting the epoxy in the correct end. Now with this end, you need to make sure that your clasp is facing the right direction, that the curve goes with the leather, and that the outside of the clasp has the little button on it. Next bracelet, I'm going to make about a 1/2 inch smaller, just because it'll fit somebody. We're going to speed through this one because we already made a bracelet. We're just going to put each bead onto the bracelet, and these are all loose. The leather is a little bit skinnier than the last one, so we are going to have to glue all the beads into place. I'm going to speed through the mixing of the epoxy. Done this before. Mix it up for 10 seconds approximately. Then we're going to spread the epoxy on the back side of the leather in the middle of the bracelet to start with for the larger bead. Move the bead into place, turning it around so that it smears the glue inside. And then we're just going to do the same thing to the rest of the beads. We'll just speed through this since we've done it before. Pretty simple. Looks good. Just showing you to make sure the curve of the clasp is going the right direction. Here's the first bracelet. It's been set up and it's all ready to go. It fits perfectly. second bracelet is ready. I like this clasp. It just snaps together. It was really easy to put on, and you just have to push the button correctly to open it up. Pretty simple. And stainless steel. I love it.